guys, welcome to another interesting episode of Tech Talk with AFO. And of course, you guys, let's appreciate ourselves. Let's appreciate ourselves, especially because we have somebody special today. A round of applause for Major. Guys, I have a long list of things lined up today that we really need to discuss. The most important of it, which you guys know and everybody now asks for it, is having a tech actor first before anything, right? And what I've done today, guys, I traveled globally to bring this special guest to us, world famous Major Adebayo Adeleke. This man is amazing. Guys, can we appreciate Major? Major is our tech actor of the day, and our conversation is going to start with Major. Of course, we know on Tech Talk with AFO, we discuss everything around technology. But like I used to say, guys, how can you discuss technology without having conversation with the real drivers of technology? People responsible for technology the way we know it, okay? But before we say anything like we normally would do, we want to introduce Major to Major. We want to introduce our tech actor. We want to introduce him to himself. So that's what we're going to do now. Kester, let's introduce Major Adeleke to Major Adeleke as a tech actor.
Wow.
Stop that video, please. He doesn't know himself. Let's introduce him to him.
Meet Adebayo Adeleke, our tech actor of the week, a serial entrepreneur and founder of RouteWatch, founder Supply Chain Africa, and founder Adebayo Adeleke LLC. Known for his innovative approach to technology, Adebayo's RouteWatch platform addresses critical issues like kidnapping, child trafficking, and gender violence by leveraging real-time crowdsourced data and geographic-specific intelligence. This groundbreaking application enhances community safety by facilitating efficient emergency responses, setting new standards in data-driven security solutions. In addition to his technological achievements, Adebayo brings a wealth of experience from his 20 years of service as a combat veteran in United States Army, where he developed deep insights into risk management, security dynamics, and strategic leadership.
A retired major of the U.S. Army with over 20 years experience, had 6 combat tours in Afghanistan and the Middle East, a risk management and security expert. Major Adebayo Adeleke retired. Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
It's nice to have you join us now.
Thank you,
Okay,
thank you, and compliments of the season.
Yes,
same to you.
absolutely. To you too. Now, this suspension and then the lifting, the suspension on UNICEF activities in the Northeast by the military. I wonder how troubling it is. I mean, when an aid organization that should be, helping both the activities of the military and helping people who are caught in the line of fire, who become victims in these issues, are accused of aiding the terrorists. I mean, what do we do with this kind of situation?
It's quite interesting. Normally, this is normal. Of course, you probably don't know much of this, but actually, this shouldn't play out in the media. But I'll give you historical background on some of this and some of my experience working with NGOs across the world. Actually, we've been having NGOs in combat since 13th century China. So this is not a new concept. This contestation and this antipathy between the military and non-governmental organization has started a long time ago. And the fact of the matter is there will always be non-governmental organization in combat. There will always be going to be there, and the military has to deal with it. But the issue is that this so-called collaboration has not been effective over the course of time. In Afghanistan, in Iraq, we always have issues with it. And the Nigeria case is not different. But normally what happens when military plan, because look, both the NGOs and the military operate in the same operational environment, we call operational environment. So they have to figure out a way to both work together. Most military planners don't understand the NGOs and what they bring to the table, And most NGOs believe that the military they're encroaching into their territory. So it's always that tug of war between both. And you know, so after World War II, after 1945, when United Nations was instituted and the world was divided. So this issue of partiality, impartiality was kind of part of the charter for non-governmental organizations. So it is imperative for them that they have to be impartial. They don't care what you're doing over there as long as, like in case of UNICEF, as long as children are not being endangered, that's their end state. You know, they both, to be honest with you now, the similarities that they both want, the same thing. They want rule of law. They want democratic government. They want economic to flourish and everything. They want both, but the approach is the differing approach.
He currently serves as the president and CEO of Adebayo Adeleke, a consultancy specializing in supply chain management, where he champions diversity and inclusion alongside global giants like Facebook and Chartered Institute of Procurement and Supply. Adebayo's commitment to education and empowerment extends beyond his professional endeavors. He founded the Rising Leadership Foundation, a non-profit organization aimed at transforming governance and leadership through technology and mentoring.
And we know supply chains encompass the systems and resources needed to develop, produce, and transport goods and services from suppliers to customers. Now, let's find out how we can perhaps accelerate this in the face of so much needs and want on the continent. Mr. Adebayo Adeleke is the founder, Supply Chain Africa. Good afternoon, Mr. Adeleke. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for having me this morning. Yes, African supply chain has been undervalued for quite some time now. And with the advent of African Continental Free Trade Agreement, it has brought to light of the amount of revenue and the amount of value and impact African supply chain in totality of 54 states can bring together. But I mean, since African Continental Free Trade Agreement has been launched, we've seen a lot of improvement, a lot of talks, a lot of energy towards making sure that the trade bloc within the continent is quite impactful. And I believe that a united Africa under a single trading bloc is actually, it means a lot for the world. I believe the world's going to benefit from that. And a healthy African economic landscape benefit everyone. But unfortunately, it's going to take some time because there are certain challenges that kind of hinders African supply chain.
Specifically targeting African immigrants and inner city youths. His academic achievements include a Bachelor of Arts from University of Maryland and 3 master's degrees in administration, leadership, supply chain management, and procurement and acquisition management. Most recently, Adebayo spearheaded a significant partnership involving Supply Chain Africa and Ladoke Akintola University of Technology, leading to a $4.5 million project to establish a research and innovation center in Ogbomoso, Nigeria. This initiative aims to solve complex supply chain challenges and establish Africa as a leader in the field. Adebayo Adeleke's impressive blend of leadership, innovation, and commitment to social impact continues to inspire and make a measurable difference in communities across the globe. This is why Adebayo Adeleke is indeed a tech actor worthy of celebration.
Yes, sir. Now that we've introduced you to you, introduced Major Adeleke to Major Adeleke, right now we can take your reaction. What do you think?
Thank you so much. It's a compilation of my work, so I'm deeply impressive and appreciative, and thank you so much for the introduction, glorious introduction, so to say. I've never been introduced like that before. You'll be a great hype man. If this tech thing doesn't work out at long run, you can be a great hype man. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for inviting me to this show, and I don't take it for granted. Ability to share my story and ability to tell the way I see the world from my point of view. Barring that, I've gone through several experiences over the course of time, and I'll be able to share it. I don't know that's going to be blessed one way or the other. But I'm deeply, and I'm privileged. Let me so to say, I'm privileged to be here on the show.
All right. Thank you. So very quickly, I will start with Abiola. Your first opening remark before we move on to other things.
Thank you very much, Afo. It's a great pleasure to be here once again and to be sitting amongst very how do I put this in the best English, pleasant dignitaries, right, such as Major Adeleke here. Major Adeleke's work in empowering African communities through tech is truly inspiring, and I'm keen to learn more about things that he has done and how he sees the world through his eyes.
Krista?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Afo. For this is honestly a very big opportunity, just like Bella said, getting to hear directly from you. I feel like this is an honor, right, to be in this session, to be in the same, panel as you are. So I'm really looking forward to getting into your thoughts, right, hearing from you, basically.
Yeah, so, guys, apart from the fact that Major Adeleke is a bundle of knowledge, he's a tech actor, there's this part of him I would also want to emphasize. Major Adeleke is a community on his own. When I say community, Major Adeleke is one of these few individuals that will go out of his ways just to make anything happen for you. Another thing I want you guys to know, you at least know that I'm involved with different activity, particularly empowering youths in Nigeria and the rest of Africa, ensuring that we have more tech actors in the tech space and getting Africa to have a proper seat at the table. When I started this initiative, Major Adeleke was one of those I first reached out to. And reaching out to him with the many activities, the many responsibility on his shoulder, he accepted to be a director on that project. He's not just a director. Within Kesa, I was telling you that, Spark Bridges, which is the name of the non-profit, has actually been approved as a non-for-profit in the US. It happened in a space of a couple of weeks, and that happened because of Major Adeleke.
Wow.
Not just his personality, not just his network, right? This is something like you would pay lawyers for $10,000 to get the entire process, right? But Major, for the kind of person he is, on a system, Afo, we're going to call this person. Afo, I'm going to do this. Afo, I will do this for you. Before I know it, everything was up and running. And that's not the only thing Major is responsible for. I have so many people I can call right now, and they will tell you, Major is a community. It brings people together and it makes things happen. I thought I should emphasize that about Major. But let's take it back to Major, because Major is the reason why we are here. Major, how do you do all of this? This is a man that has 20 years experience combatant experience in U.S. Army. He has been in Afghanistan, Iraq, everywhere, Europe. Talk about it in the last in the 20 years of his career in U.S. Army. So, sir, how do you do all of these things? We'll still come back to your tech career, right? But let's even understand your background, where you are coming from, right? What makes Bayo who Bayo is?
Wow, you got me thinking a bit. Got me thinking. Thank you so much. Thank you for everyone on the panel. I deeply appreciate you having me here. And more or less, it's a learning experience for me as well. As you are learning from me, I'm also learning from you. The old me, who am I as a person? It's based on my upbringing. My parents, I give that to them. The community I grew up in Ile-Ife, I give that to them as well. So everything you can pass through, who you are today is a function of the community you grew up in, and oftentimes we said we don't let where we came from define us, but it's also part of us as well. So you can't pass through water without water getting stick on your body one way or the other. And largely too as well is the military. The military did a whole lot of numbers on me, so to become a person. So. And I think, which I've shared it with my closest of friends, leaving the military and joining the business world, I'm still struggling with it because I grew up in a service environment. whereby you serve a value, serve a cause that is greater than yourself. It's not transactional in nature. It's value driven. So it's very difficult for me to transition from that particular mindset to a transactional mindset. For ones that live their adult life in Nigeria in a very transactional domain, you understand there's a shark eat shark world, dog eat dog world. But for me, it's just, it's a service base for me. Being in the military for 20 years, you serve the country, you serve the soldiers that are in your care. You serve your community. So it's like a natural thing for me. It's not something I can just, shrug off. It's something that is part of me as an individual. So any expression of myself that I do to serve my community is something that has been important in my DNA, either by nature or by nurture in the military. So, but I will, as good as it is, as I'm able to help others, is also, has also downside to it as well. So, but again, everything has a good and bad to it. Tibitire, laye, and as the Yoruba people would say. There's good and bad. It's the yin yang in the Japanese culture. So, but again, I've been blessed. I've been blessed with the great people around me, the family, the community around me. Wherever I find myself, I've been completely blessed. So yeah.
Abiola, listening to Major Adebayo Adeleke, right? I'm sure there's a lot of thought going on in your mind. I don't want to preempt some of those thoughts. I want you to speak your mind and for yourself. You can also ask questions, including your question, how this man combines, that war experience, and still not, how you strike a balance, like the experience in Afghanistan, in Iraq, and all of that. Abiola, your question.
You have given me all the questions that I want to ask already. But then going through Mr. Adebayo's profile, when I was doing a bit of research on him, I see that you are currently a founder at RouteWatch, and it got me thinking. Okay, maybe your military experience is definitely a strong point as to you leading that company, but I want to first of all state categorically that creating that company is especially an innovative one. It's very innovative. I would like the approach of tackling serious social issues like kidnapping and gender violence and the likes, which I see is what is the core of the company in RouteWatch. But my question to you would be, what inspired you to develop the company RouteWatch, and what are some of the major challenges that you have faced in the early stages of building that business?
Thank you so much. The route role is born out of course, my military background, security. My area of security is human security, which touches physical community security and whatnot. And over the last few years, Nigeria has been plagued with, and not only Nigeria, Sub-Saharan Africa, with different expressions of banditry, terrorism, and whatnot, and insurgency type. So, but again, we have all these numbers, but where are they coming from? Who are these people? There's no digital form that traces or where these numbers are coming from. So the idea is we can digitize our crimes. We'll be able to, the numbers speak to us. Numbers don't lie, except for the cooked ones. So, we will start digitizing the stuff and we'll be able to speak, be able to understand what's going on. Let's say, for example, in this particular grid coordinate, right? There's been traces of data coming about kidnapping, banditry. So, okay, what is it about this community that is attracting banditry? What is it about this community that is attracting, horsemen? Cattlemen or, herdsmen rather. What is it about this particular community? There's so much that data tells us, but if we don't gather the data, we'll not be able to see the story the data is telling us. And we cannot tell the story, we will not be able to find solutions to our problem. So our ability to be able to digitize our crime data, for me, is a bane of a lot of things. Security is everything. Food security, health security, economic security, supply chain security. Security is everything. It's life, so to say. So our ability to understand it and make it more secure. The more data we collect on this, the more we can actually address our security and defense issues. So that's where we see it, and that's why, And the same thing goes with domestic violence. We're trying to, our first line of security is our home. Domestic violence, our what we call the local staff at home, how secure are you? They're the first line of defense for you. So ability to understand that every child is, your house is your country. Every child it has that God-given right to be able to live in a stress-free. Stress is an overrated, but in a loving environment. Forget everything else that's happening, but no child should be subjected to a lot of harm. So, ability to collect this data, ability to, and no child, no women, or people that will consider, that they can't fight for themselves. I want to kind of restructure that statement because a lot of things can be taken out of context these days. But people that are vulnerable, how do we protect them in our society? And that's why the domestic violence is also part of it. Ability to tell the story, so we can address it. Not everything is going to end up in prison, but there's a lot of social interventions that we can do to prevent a lot of these things before getting to that stage. So that's the reason why, we started the organization to be able to address this. And with the data, we'll be able to proffer solution, both from government and non-government agencies to be able to address our issues. Not everything requires the government to handle. Some of these things we can do it ourselves. We have the government. So,
Adela, do you want to quickly follow up on, is there anything you want to follow up on that just to get more clarification?
Yeah, so I listened to his response, and I just want to just have a quick follow-up question. Would be what were the challenges? Say, for example, your business, setting up that business. What were the challenges that you encountered during your early days, right? Setting up the business and transitioning from like you mentioned earlier, from a service vocation to a transactional one. What was a major challenge?
I think ability to get people to actually give our data is one thing. There's a lot of things. Nigeria has been a domain whereby people don't really care before, but now people are so worried about giving their data up, about certain things, and that's been the biggest challenge for us. Of course, fundraising is also part of it. Depending on your idea of what fundraising is and what fundraising shouldn't be, there's been access to some of these things, understanding what you're trying to do, the people around you to understand what you're trying to do, ability to understand that these are foundational blocks for a lot of things, that we can help to solve a lot of problems within our society. Bringing all those things to fore and making sure people understand it is one of our biggest issues. Funding, data collection, and also understanding, because these things requires behavioral change. This really requires the way we handle stuff, the way we report stuff, the way we kind of feel comfortable sharing some of what we are going through or what is going on within our community, put it out there so that, it's not about us, it's about the community as well. I grew up in Ilefe, and I can bet you people around my neighborhood, 20, 40 houses know exactly where I live. It's a communal, security thing. Everybody knows who is what. If you enter our community, they will know if you're a stranger, if you're new around there, where you live or not. These days, people don't care. And I think we need to bring those things back, because that's how we're able to secure our communities back then. If somebody that is strange enters your community, people will know. People will start, sniffing around, like, where is he coming from? Who is he? What kind of place is he coming from? Can somebody, have you dug up on it to see what, I'll make sure that we don't have, somebody that's going to harm us around there. But we don't have anything no more. Everybody is so siloic in their ways of living and whatnot. We've so westernized our ways that we don't really care who is next door to us. We don't even say hi to them, all those things. And there's pros and cons to it. Like just like I said earlier, there's pros and cons to everything in life. So yeah, so those are some of the challenges we had, and we still currently having as well. So it's not that the challenges has gone away. We just figure out a way to kind of, repackage it in a way, so to say.
Kessa, I know you've been waiting so patiently, right? Now it is your floor.
Thank
Major
you.
is
Thank
all
you.
yours.
Thank you, Afo. Major, I might come in from a particular angle. When I was actually very much younger, like a child, I had this friend of mine, was also my mate, and his dream, when we all had to, call out our dream, what we want to be in the future, he would always say he wanted to be a soldier. He wanted to be a soldier. Now, we didn't understand like why exactly this was, because we're children, and growing up, becoming teenagers, becoming young adults, we saw how serious he was. And as we speak now, he's already in his third year as a Navy officer. Like he followed through. Now, now looking at your background, looking at your where you're coming from, there is a strong sense of security. There's a strong sense of protection, right? That comes with it. So the first part of my question would be that how did this come to be? How did it? I mean, you spent about 2 decades, right, in the U.S. Army. That's I'm sure would require a lot basically. Let me not begin to, but like the fact that that the passion, the drive, right? I would like to kind of find out how it all started, how it all began, what inspired you to be a military personnel and stick to it for all that period. And the second aspect of it, because sadly, the extent of my knowledge in anything military is with the Hollywood movies that we get to see, the military movies we get to see, right? And already from what they depict to us, it's clear that that is not a profession anyone with a weary heart can take up, right? It's so over 20 years. I mean, I'm very sure that there must have been times where you had to make certain decisions. You had to basically, how has your risk management, right, in this regard, serving in the military, how has it been like, right, for over this period? So these are kind of like the two aspects of my question, like managing risks, leading the people, because in your presentation earlier, you mentioned that, having to serve people, which implied that you had people under you as well, having to lead them. So how has this, the experience been like?
Thank you so much. Yeah, I joined the military. It was a different time and era. It was in the 90s. It was a different, was after Gulf War, after the first Gulf War. So it wasn't that much. And I joined the military initially to, get payment for my school, for my university education. And after spending a year before, and I figured that's the best route to get it without getting into debt. But when I got in there, and I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the purpose, serving a cause that is greater than yourself, the brotherhood that you formed in the military, working towards a common cause, being programmed, being principled, waking up in the morning, doing physical exercises, just, attacking, having a particular task for the day, purpose for the day. People don't understand how that thing can really ground a person, makes you disciplined, in the way it kind of reshape your life in a way that it gives you the clear path to what the future holds. So for me, after 4 years, as opposed to heading back and go back to school and all, I fell in love with it. I said, you know what, I'm going to do it for the rest of my career. And I've never regretted that decision in life. And I know a lot of people have different views of the military, but this particular military has given me everything I needed in life to be able to survive. And what I still do today and what I'll continue to do, I draw inspiration, I draw knowledge from the military and what I've learned in the past. I do something in the morning I call leadership, leadership meditation in the morning, and I look through all my books of leadership. Over the course of time, over 20 years, you've had so much that you've forgotten enough that most people actually know when it comes to certain parts. So kind of refresh your mind. Okay, this is, there are certain issues that have happened prior, like 2 days or 3 days ago. You'd be like, okay, if I'm in the military, what will have happened? And then you look through your notes and see what some of your guiding principles will have been. So that will help you to channel some of those things out. So for me, it has been a very, I've been blessed. You just been a military. Some people have difference of opinion. I mean, there's some ups and downs. Of course, it's not it's not rosy, just like everyone else. I mean, just like life, it's ups and downs. But the greatest thing that we have as human is ability to, to persevere, and that's what happened. On the second part of your question, you asked me how the whole thing came to be, and then the second part is my risk management. Initially, I mean, my risk management wasn't there. I mean, it wasn't like, but the military kind of teaches you that the way you live your life, the way you kind of assess risk management. Actually, almost everything that you do in the military, you have to do risk assessment. So kind of permeates into your own life as well. Before you go on the road, okay, did I check my car? Did I check my tires? I'm going on a long drive. What's my sleep plan? Doing 12 hours drive, what's the sleep plan? Because as a young guy back then, you wanted to be able to do everything on the fly, which we did. I mean, we used to drive 12 hours straight from New York to North Carolina back then. And then I look back, I was like, this is such an unwise decision. You will leave like 6 p.m. in New York, and then you arrive in North Carolina at about 5 a.m. And then by 6:30, you have to be at work running that day. So we'll be changing at the back of our cars. It was just a recklessness. Over the course of time, as you progress in life, as you become a leader too as well, and you see all these young guys doing the same thing, you just shake your head like, guy, I've been there before. Doesn't make sense, So, yeah. So that's some of those things. So, yeah, it's, so military has really, what I know of risk management today, and as I do it in my own personal life and do in my professional life, I learn everything from the military, So that's where we are. So, yeah.
I want to ask you a very interesting question, right? So looking at the video we just watched, it's obvious some of those videos where you had some of those interviews few years after your military career. You've added weight, your cheeks are this big, right? So was it more like an emancipation period for you, like, okay, finally I'm out? And you started eating all Madam's chicken, everything that you can lay your hands on, and you've gone so big. Then later you realize that, no, let me pick up my military notes. These are some of the things I noted that I need to work on. And you came back to what you had now. I just want you to talk about that on a lighter note.
Always lost journey. Before I left the military, I've been in combat for some years. And if you ever talk to any soldiers that have been in combat, you pick up a lot of stuff. Traumatic stress, post-traumatic PTSDs and whatnot. You have their own expressions of all of those things. And it's normal for a lot of us. Some of us express it differently. Some of us adapt to it differently. For me, that particular period of time, I packed on a lot of weight. Even before I left the military, it did. But when I left, it was just like, you don't have to, the regimented life is not necessary again. Waking up this amount in the morning, walking and running and all this wasn't necessary again. So you just let yourself go. And because you're also trying to, make amends for what you're going through as an individual. So you started deviating away from what you know to be the norm. So you're packing a lot of weight, and then you get a clear reminder that most veterans die within a certain amount of the years of retirement, because they just let what they do. So you're like, okay, I need to get myself back. So it's a combination of many things. Post-traumatic stress, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, that's one part. Just your own being, don't want to wake up in the morning and be regimented again. But you realize that your program, and you've gone through those pipelines that has become you. It has altered your DNA in a way that you can't really change. In a way, so you start, going through the weight loss process to get yourself back and make yourself, so all those things are just life happening. So yes, I added a lot of weight. I think I lost close to about 100 pounds to get me back. So yeah, so it's something I'm quite proud of myself and people that were with me along the journey, friends and family, my doctor. So they all know the deal. So and so it's something I talk about a lot, and I'm very open about it.
So can you unpack all of this very quickly, right? In the video we just finished, we're seeing you on CNBC, we're seeing you on TVC, we're seeing you with Nigerian military. What is it? What relationship do you now have with the Nigerian military? What are you doing on CNBC? I know in one of our conversations you were talking about food security, like you're working on a research on food security. You know, how is that related to Route Watch? We also still going to talk about a project, a multi-million-dollar project you just started in partnership with Ladoke, Akintola University. So, I mean, can you unpack all of this as quickly as you can?
Yeah, so my domain is supply chain and security and defense. That's it. But those two domains have several expressions. So Route Watch is a security outfit. And when you see me talking on all these platforms, I talk about security and supply chain. There is an intersection. Intersection between security and supply chain is really, really where I try, because I talk about security, I talk about politics, I talk about geography, I talk about history, because all those things they are intertwined and they make what we have. I mean, they actually affect our security domain, they affect our defense domains. So I work with the military hand in hand in an advisory role, and more importantly, for increased capability, to make sure that the Nigerian military is what it is and needs to be, they need to get to where their potential is. I mean, my own little way. I'm not the only one. There's several people doing it in different shape and sizes, and the same thing that the U.S. military is doing as well, because every military needs to increase their capability. So I'm just one doing it with the Nigerian military. So for me, it's a noble call for me. It's a noble call because Nigeria is home for me as well. It's my host home or ancestral home. We put it that way, my ancestral home. There's several homes now, but it's my ancestral home, which, as the Yoruba adage says that you can't use a left hand to describe your father's house. So the same thing goes to Nigeria. So in any time the Nigerian call, I will obey. It's just the way it's the way of the world. So now, that being said, Supply Chain Africa is the outfit that I lead, and Adebayo Adeleke LLC. And those two outfits actually have a lot of subsidiaries. Route Watch is one of them. Watch Technologies, we talked about military tech, which I do a lot. You quite know about this, about developing different technologies for the military. So I do that a lot because of my expression. That's what the military does to you, especially in my own case, is kind of tap into your potential and give you several expressions. So over the course of time, you've done so many things and you've done it well, and you've done it at a world-class level. And it kind of expresses, it kind of extract a lot of things out for you. So you see me talk about supply chain, which is my domain that I've done for quite some time: the acquisition, the logistics, the movement of goods and services, the procurement, the contracting, which I've taught and done massively on it. But at the same time, I can't forget the security side of me as well. So I am a lot of expressions that come out. I'm also into nations building as well. It's a nations building. Believe in the Nehemiah constructing the Bible, that the building Jerusalem. You got to break it brick by brick. There's nothing that is no kind of half-fast way of doing things. Things has to be done. No nation of today is great. It's done half-fast. So it has to be built by brick, and that's what led to Ladoke Akintola, the multi-billion-dollar facility we are building over there, is to be able to enhance the supply chain capability. Not only supply chain, but everything. Supply chain is an interdisciplinary kind of discipline because it cuts across sector, trade, economics, geography, security, engineering. Actually, supply chain came out of engineering. And most people oftentimes don't realize this. So, and Ogbomoso is very strategic because the gateway between the north and the south in some part of Nigeria. And it's just, as an engineering school, it's a research school as well. And more importantly, the particular project is very important because we need to proffer solutions that works for us. We need to proffer solution that as well is research-based. Oftentimes in our country, we oftentimes do a lot of proffer solution that is not research-based and is the solution is always short-time lived. So this particular thing, the Supply Chain Research and Innovation Center, supposed to bring about government, academia, and businesses together to proffer solutions for supply chain issues, which oftentimes cut across different sectors, the military, the NGOs and whatnot. It really doesn't matter. As long as the problem is solved and involves supply chain, we're going to solve it. So that is my contribution to the nation building. I believe this thing is properly entrenched. I believe it can set pace not only for Nigeria, but the way things is done across Africa. And I think we have the ability to do that. But we can actually do a lot of things to put our mind into it. So for me, that is the zenith of everything else I'm doing. Yes, and and I love it.
We started with you. Sorry for cutting in. We started with you, and we'll definitely come back to you because we still need to pick more of your brain. Okay, but we also have some other conversation lined up, and I know for a fact that you are a very good resource to also dissect some of these topics that we have itemized, right? The first one, which I would want to open and I would want the three of you to react to. A couple of weeks ago, the Minister for Innovation and Digital Economy, Dr. Tijani, right? There was a workshop on AI, and the objective is to set an AI framework for Nigeria, like bringing all AI research partners together, research and professor. I was looking at the video and I think I saw you there. I'm not sure it was you I saw. Were you at that workshop?
No, I wasn't. I'm not that intimate with the particular ministry at the particular point in time. Right. Not anything else. It's just that our path has not crossed in any shape or form. But go ahead.
Okay, so now we'll quickly run a video clip about that, which is, I'm not sure we have time to run that. I don't know if you've seen it, but the essence of it is this was a workshop that had AI researchers, and the conversation was what should be the direction of Nigeria in this AI space. Okay, my own ask is, shouldn't Nigeria be more focused on defining its own niche? And if that is what we intend to do, what niche are we really looking at? Major, I need you to take your time to reflect on this.
Lagos.
Back to the nation's capital, Nigeria is set to develop a policy that will set the tone for the adoption of artificial intelligence, as well as become a hub for pioneering intelligence solutions in Africa. Minister of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy, Bosun Tijani, was speaking at the opening ceremony of a 4-day workshop in Abuja. TVC News' Major Adebayo reports, and we'll be back with business news.
Artificial intelligence has become a multi-purpose technology which has continued to evolve for good and sometimes can be used by some to perpetrate crime and alter the reality. It can be argued that anything and everything is possible in the world of artificial intelligence, transforming production and service delivery with the potential to significantly impact on economic growth and social progress. The International Finance Corporation projects that the strategic adoption of AI could add up to $234 billion to Africa's GDP by 2030. Nigeria in this loop is considered to have a fast-growing technology startup ecosystem, and with proactive leadership is well positioned to leverage AI for economic diversification and inclusive growth. However, along the opportunities, AI governance also poses some complex socio-technical challenges.
Transforming healthcare.
A national strategy for Nigeria to responsibly steer the AI revolution towards achieving national goals becomes imperative. At this workshop, Nigeria's Minister of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy leads more than 120 delegates to a national AI conference to discuss the country's strategy towards leveraging AI for development.
It is our responsibility as a member of this generation, but also as leaders as well, to ensure that we're not just partaker in the use of these technologies, but that we participate in actually shaping its development as well. Because these are technologies that have the significant opportunity to change every aspect of society. And the way I also like to describe it is that as digital technologies at their core is the ability to network.
The National Artificial Intelligence Strategy Workshop is a critical first step to co-create a transformational AI policy and develop solutions geared at accelerating socio-economic growth. When Nigeria's draft policy on AI becomes available, it will join the ranks of 9 other African countries like the Republic of Benin, Egypt, Ghana, Mauritius, Rwanda, Senegal, Morocco, Sierra Leone, and Tunisia that have drafted national AI strategies.
Now, guys, watching the video, for me, I think it's a very good decision. I appreciate, the minister, Dr. Tijani, is actually one of the ministers I really respect, looking at what he has achieved in how many months that he has been in charge of that particular ministry compared to some other ministers, and that's not even my own problem. Let me focus on technology, which is my domain. My minister is doing a good job and is worthy of appreciation. So, Major, what do you think should be Nigerians' niche when we talk about AI, right? Everybody knows what China is known for today. We know what US is known for when it comes to AI and the research and all of that. We know what India is known for in that space. What niche should we as Nigeria focus on?
I mean, Nigeria is blessed in so many ways. I think there are so many things. I think agriculture is the place to start. It's very neat because, as we're talking about AI, there's the other part of the argument that says AI should be the one we should be focusing on right now. There's a lot of counter to that as well because we're still a developing nation. There are certain things that we need in place, but at the same time, we can work and chew gum at the same time. Can we work on AI and also as we work on our infrastructural needs as well? Because AI is going to be needed to sit on some infrastructure, i.e. data, which we still haven't that much of it and making sense of it, and also some power. There's a need for power and all those things. So there's an argument that says, shouldn't we have all these things, embedded first before we start it? There is. Those are valid points. At the same time, but we can, like I said, we can work on chew gum at the same time. We can work on AI, and it can also work on, but from my perspective, I think Nigeria is quite strategic in nature. I think agriculture and security will be 2 areas of using AI. As you can look at it, Nigeria is also considered a center of gravity when it comes to Sub-Saharan Africa. There's a lot of things going on regionally. I know I'm biased for security reasons. I am biased, and I have my prejudicial leanings but Nigeria has a huge core amount of work to play. Our security in Sub-Saharan Africa is based on how Nigeria reacts. And with a lot of things going on over there, I think the use of artificial intelligence in any way to actually stabilize the area, the Sub-Saharan Africa will be ideal. But more importantly, our agriculture needs some touch, especially with the use of AI. Our population has been our blessing. Human capital has been our blessing, but we can actually combine both with AI to solve our food security issue, or food insecurity rather. And it can be expressed in agriculture. So there's so much that can be done in those areas. Of course, the area of education as well. But those are the 3 areas I will say that AI will largely impact the country, especially area of food. If we want to be the breadbasket of Sub-Saharan Africa, sure we can. But going to precision farming and all this other stuff will make a whole lot of sense if we start working in that direction. So those are the areas I believe that we can make sense of.
Abiola, what would be your own suggestion on what direction Nigeria should go?
Yeah, I totally am in with what Mr. Major Adebayo had said. If I had to choose off the bat of my head, it has to be agriculture. But then again, what is the amount of data that we have on ground that we're going to use to train this AI model? What is the amount of information that we have? What's the level of adoption that we are going to get? How literate are these are the farmers, right? What is how effective will it be? How do we secure the infrastructure that we're going to put in the farms, considering the fact that herdsmen currently collect taxes from from farmers who go to the farms and all. The list, I mean, we can go on and on and on, and it's endless. But then again, we can chew gum and walk, as Major Adeleke has rightly said, and I am totally in for that. Yes.
Kester?
Basically, for me, it all boils down to, do we have, again, just like they both said, do we have that? Because when we talk about AI, when we talk about creating artificial intelligence for this industry, for this purpose, for this niche, right, there must be that already made like infrastructure in place to facilitate whatever build, right, such that, you know, it can flourish, it can move well, it can, right? So thing is, at this point, though we are still developing in many areas, right, it might be something that again, I would just end up having to agree with them, because I really do not have any other opinion besides that, right? The fact that it's something, if we have to go about that right now, given that, oh, this is the trend the world is flowing, let's not be left behind. Let's join, you know, that, let's join that particular flow. Then it's something that has to happen side by side. Let us also look at how we need to ensure that certain things are stable, right, infrastructure-wise, so we can have both, you know, playing side by side. So yeah, that's it for me.
For me, it will be an addition to what you all have said. AI for me is a tool of operation, right? It still doesn't take away security the way we know it. It doesn't take away education the way we know it. It doesn't take away agriculture the way we know it. I'm particularly interested in what the report of that workshop would look like. What framework would government be putting forward as a direction for Nigeria when it comes to AI, right? Is it that we will negate all the other important tool of operation, negate all the important things that we need to do as a country? So for example, let's single out education, right, as one weakness we're still struggling with as a country. How can we be talking about an AI framework if those that would drive the framework are still not as equipped as they should from education standpoint? How can we be talking about AI framework if food security is still a major issue? Major, on your research on food security, I don't know if you want to quickly touch on it. Like, what and what have you found out? You understand? Particularly
Yes. So,
looking at our situation and relating it with what AI can do.
So, I mean, on the agricultural side, I mean, the general consensus in Nigeria right now is that to combat food security or insecurity, you have to plant more. But that's only like 35 to 40% of the issue, ideally, because if you look at the food value chain, realize that, you know, the supply chain that supports the food, the movement of food from place of abundance to place of scarcity is quite non-existent. You know, the taxation, legal and illegal, that goes on the way. That has absolutely nothing to do with farming at all. The food inflation, the food resiliency. There's some places in Nigeria they can't back off 2,000 hectares of land dedicated for food production. What I found out is also that food is the number one integrator in Nigeria. The reason why Nigeria is still together is not because of anything else, but it's food. You know, so it's a lot of things that comes out when this is a year-long stuff that we've been doing, and you begin to figure out a lot of stuff that, you know, is counter to what you know, what you've been told. Research, that's why the beauty of research. When you start doing research, you start kind of, you know, debunking all this other stuff that you've known to be true. So at least so far, the use of AI will definitely help in the area of food insecurity, especially in the farming aspect of it. But what about the storage? What about the supply chain? What about the distribution network? What about the roads network? Nigeria is still lacking hundreds of thousands kilometers of road. We have not, if you start building roads from now to the next 30, 35 years, it's still not enough. So there's a lot. There's a lot to be done. So I get it. But for me, it's right. You got to start from somewhere. You have to start from somewhere. I mean, if AI is what the Honorable Minister wants to take on and to be able to use it to kind of ignite other areas, absolutely. I mean, you can use it in the area of precision farming, but you can't do precision farming without power, because some of the things you're going to be using in collecting data is going to be require power, especially in the rural area. You know, we're talking about food insecurity, the connection between the urban and rural areas. We're having a discussion about why a lot of squatters in Lagos are being pursued out. You know, people are talking about migration from other states and rural to Lagos. There's a deeper conversation in that, because you go back, there's no able men. If you go to Nigerian farms, there are not enough able men to farm because everybody is moving. So the whole conversation, if we start on now, we won't be able to finish for the next 2 or 3 hours, because it's just layers and layers of it, you know. But again, we learn in part. We learn in part. So
I'll take it from you that yes, it's important for us to have a framework like you mentioned. We can work and chew at the same time. It's good for us to have a framework for Nigeria on AI, right? But we shouldn't take our eye off the important issues and problems that have to be addressed, right? I mean, critical to some of these things is your domain, security. You can't even talk about anything if we don't have a country, if we don't have a secured country to start with. How can you talk about any other thing if food security is also not guaranteed?
Exactly.
Right? How can we talk about anything if road network that will connect you to all part of Nigeria also doesn't exist? We can go on and on and on and on and on. Now let me bring it to something that is very important to all of us, and for some reason we are all connected to this. There's a news in US which Major is very familiar with, that there's a new law which will probably go to effect from next year, depending on what TikTok decides to do. The owners of TikTok, what they decide to do with the ownership of TikTok will determine if TikTok will still be allowed in US or not. My question would be, and this is really more looking at Nigeria, right? Is it the right thing for TikTok to be banned for whatever reason? And if it's the right thing for TikTok to be banned, looking at it in the context of Nigeria, at least we all still remember the experience of NSAS. NSAS, where a tweet from Jack Dorsey helped fuel, the expansion of the protest to the point of, vandalization and all of that. And governments all over the world, let's use China as an example, let's use Russia as with China for a fact that Facebook is not operational in China, Twitter is not operational in China, and the question is, this is a platform used by US government to interfere in China, and US is also now saying to China, sorry, TikTok is doing a lot of interference with our local politics. Now, if you look at all of this, should Nigerian government be going that direction too, right? Regulating some of this platform using NSAS as an example. Now, how do you strike a balance between freedom of speech and, regulation of this platform in a manner that security of human life, security of everything we do, free speech would be guaranteed?
So, yeah, every country has the right to protect itself. They have, it's actually a matter of national security. I understand the nuances of freedom of speech and whatnot, but social media is just a tool. It's not the main reason. I don't think the country is laying out a law that they shouldn't speak the truth, but it just amplifies. Social media oftentimes is an amplifier of what we want other people to see. And it also can be used in submerging national security issues. So I understand why nations are taking, especially if the data that has been collected and whatnot is being used in ways that is not in tune with what the other friendly government is going to do. So I completely understand it. And for me as well, every country will choose its part of how they want to be governed. When you democratically elect certain government and they make decisions on your behalf, you just have to live with it. And unfortunately, these decisions will come back. You see, it doesn't work like you see it in like next year, maybe 20, 30 years from now, you begin to see the real effect of decisions you make today. The whole thing is like a script. you act like today we're acting the script that's been written 20, 30 years ago. And because we're acting it, our decisions and our reaction during the scripting is going to be for somebody's going to be referenced in 20, 30 years from now. So I'm of opinion Nigeria has to do what Nigeria believes in is, what is moving forward in its own national security strategy. And that is just a fact of it, because there's no way you can dice it. You will always find a way to be like, this doesn't make sense, this makes sense, this doesn't make sense, but they have to meet the middle road in which, it's a win-win for all. But when it comes to the issue of social media, you have a population that is a high population of young adults that is, driving this thing, and they live and die by social media. So you have to kind of make a reason. And oftentimes when it comes to some of these things, they're very emotional. Nothing is logical. And I've always preached, emotions is the enemy of logical thinking or critical thinking. And so all these things have to be put on the table before they make this decision. But again, every country is a sovereign state. They have to make all these things by themselves. And Nigeria is not immune in any shape or form to this. But I believe if the country believes that this particular platform is fueling certain things that is affecting national security, just like what they did to Binance and P2P players, if they feel like TikTok is doing the same thing as well, so be it, part time. That currently Nigeria is facing counterinsurgency issues, and they believe that this will help them in curbing it down. Absolutely. Because you got to look at in the ranking of issues that kind of do a threat assessment of these things, and which one works better, which one makes sense. It might not be the one that really talks to you. You got to look at the grand scheme of things. How will this kind of affect, the whole thing? So the government has to make those decisions, and they have the data. They know exactly where the real problems are. And if they feel the social media it is, you have to believe in them that you voted them in and they made the right decision. Unfortunately, this thing is so emotional. Nobody's going to be logical in discussing this thing, layers by layers, but it is what it is.
Yes, before you run off, just to quickly get one reaction from Kester and one from Abiola, right? I'm listening to Major now. It is clear that TikTok, Facebook, Twitter also can be regulated in Nigeria at some point. Kester, how do you react?
Yeah, thank you. So I'll try to be very quick. So I have a theory actually about this whole thing, and one aspect of that is the way TikTok uses the data, the way their algorithm, right, is set up. Now, with the way they collect, which pretty much is similar on other social media platforms, to be very honest, but they've been able to use this data to get to each and every user, such that it's almost as if you are being tracked, right? So this aspect of things, especially with that data, right, and coupled with a couple of interviews and articles I've read about this whole thing, right? Because 2-3 weeks ago, it was a major news, right? This whole Twitter ban in the US. So the other aspect of it, which is like more stronger in my opinion, is the way as Twitter is right now, TikTok rather, as it is right now, people get to pass information there directly, raw. Sometimes an incident is happening, somebody picks up their phone, they're recording it and it's going there live. Now, traditional media, the way we all know it, right? I believe to a large extent it is controlled by our government,
okay,
right?
So, Kester, so Major, two things I would like you to address before you take your leave. The first one, of course, is what is next? So many things are coming up on a daily basis. That will be the first one I want you to react to. The second one, of course, is we want people to learn from you, like, what would really be your advice, for the young folks, Nigerian youths that are also trying to, either get in the tech space and they are in that formative stage of deciding what their career will be in future, looking at the different challenges we have in the world of today. So these are the two things I would like you to react to before we call it a day.
Thank you so much, Afo. Thank you for having me here. It's been a pleasure. But what's next for me? Supply chain research and innovation hub is kind of the zenith of it for me. And also to be contributing in my own knowledge in national strategies. I think I've done enough at the bottom up approach, but it's time to go from the top down, trying to influence and changing, be able to change the narrative in so many ways at the national level, different countries, be able to push this issue of security and defense and supply chain, the intersection there. And so I'll be doing a lot of, videos, learning, sharing my opinions. Oftentimes is well with research, I'll be doing a lot of writing as well, chapter books and whatnot, and some of those things. So I think at that time of my career right now, and that of my, whereby you pour whatever you've learned over the course of time in those medias for people to share and be able to, for a wider audience. And for people to, for the young Nigerians looking at, they're in that crossroad of what to do with life. If you're in the educational, the formal educational setting, I would advise you this. Whatever you do in courses you take the basic courses in life. If it's English, if it's math and statistics, if it is engineering, if it's biology, if it is chemistry, if it's physics, if it is languages, do it. Don't get too carried away with all these fancy new age disciplines, because they all came from the basic. Engineering has been around for hundreds of years. Mathematics has been around for thousands. English and different languages, biology, chemistry, and all those things, Faraday's law and all those things predicted a lot of our grandparents. So all those things are never going away, because all these new areas and disciplines sprung up from these basic points. So my advice, and what I've seen having kids in college as well, is that if you go the traditional route, when the time comes when you graduate, you will never lack. You can always find a way. If you don't think you do computer science right now, that's fine. If you want to go study English or Arabic or, economics, go ahead. You can finish your economics degree and later come back to computer science. What you did today doesn't define you, what your career trajectory is going to be, but it's going to open your mind to be analytical. Just do something that makes you think, to be able to think outside the box. That's one important. If you're in the informal world, figure out a job that gives you that, opens your mind. Because the next phase of the world we are going to is the ability to think outside the box. I'll be able to think in where we live in a contested environment. Nations are rising against nations. We have scarcity of resources like never before. Things that are going extinct. How do you think outside these boxes? Things that we have abundance today will be restricted in the years to come. How do you think to create nothing, to create something out of nothing? So that is the challenge for the next generation to do. And I think they have the opportunities to do so by learning from the past, and also having a great outlook into the future. So
you just broke my heart, right? But I don't want to hold. Well, I need to tell you very quickly, right? I was expecting part of what would be next for you is either becoming a senator or honorable or a governor, right? You guys complain about Nigeria all the time, and you guys are not ready to be part of Nigerian politics to make a difference. So I'm not happy with you. I'm sorry. I just have to say this to your face. I have to say
no, it's a fact that we all have our own sphere of influence. There are ways to affect.
We need your influence in making a difference, bro.
Nigerian politics is not for the weak or faint-hearted.
That's what you guys say all the time.
I know.
That's what they say all the time. Anyways, thank you so much for your time. We'll continue this conversation. Thank you for disappointing me and telling me you will not become a senator or a governor in Nigeria.
Oh my God.
Thank you.
Just walk into a trap. All right. Thank you much. All right.
Guys, thank you so much for your time. It's been a wonderful experience. Techtalk-With-AFO, where we have conversation around technology. Our tech actor of the week, worthy of celebration, Adebayo Adeleke. Thank you for your time. Guys.